The night hung heavy over the frontier, the kind of night where the wind spoke in secrets and the stars refused to shine. Dust rolled over the barren plains like old memories, and somewhere between the howling coyotes and the soft hiss of the dying fire, a woman was running for her life. Her name was Clara Rose, and every step she took felt like dragging her soul through glass. The cold bit at her skin. Her torn dress flapped like a dying flag in the desert wind. Behind her, faint but closing, came the sound of men. Laughter, boots, dogs. She didn't need to turn back to know who they were. She'd seen their faces every night in her dreams. Tucker Shaw's men. The rancher owned half the county, land, cattle, saloons, even lawmen. And for 2 long years, he owned her too. Not in name, but in all the ways that mattered. To him, Clara was just another prize, a thing to display, to command, to break. She'd been taken in after her father's debts piled high, promised work, then trapped in a world of whiskey and locked doors. But tonight, she had escaped. The back gate had been left open. Maybe a mistake, maybe fate. She didn't care. Her lungs screamed, her feet bled, her heart pounded. She just ran toward the dark river that shimmered faintly beneath the dying moon. Her reflection in the water looked like a ghost. She stepped in. The current hit her like a wall of knives, dragging her down, filling her lungs with ice. But she kept pushing until the pain faded and the cold started to feel almost peaceful. She thought maybe this was how it ended. Quiet, alone, forgotten. But fate had other plans. From the shadows of the opposite bank, Jed Cole saw the figure fall beneath the surface. He'd been coming to that river every dawn since the war ended, watering his mare, letting silence keep him company. He hadn't saved anyone in 20 years, not since the fire, not since the screams. But something in that flash of white dress stirred him. Without thinking, he dove in. The water tore at him, but he reached her, her hair wrapping around his wrist like it refused to let go. When he dragged her onto the shore, her lips were blue, her pulse faint. For a moment, the world was still. Then she gasped, coughing up the river, her voice cracking as she whispered, "Easy, it hurts." Jed froze. That voice, soft, trembling, cracked something in him he thought had long turned to stone. He covered her with his coat, rubbing her arms, trying to bring her back. "You're safe now," he said. "No one's gonna hurt you here." Her eyes fluttered open, green like wet glass, haunted by years of silence. "Where am I?" "Near Ash Hollow," he said. "My land, what's left of it." Then the sound came again, faint, distant, hooves. Clara's body tensed. "They're coming." Jed stood, scanning the ridge. Dust moved like ghosts across the horizon. "Then we better move." He helped her onto his horse, and as dawn broke, they disappeared into the golden wasteland. 2 strangers bound by desperation, carrying more ghosts than hope. The first few days were quiet. They hid deep in the canyons near Jed's old ranch, surviving on creek water and whatever he could hunt. Clara barely spoke, but when she did, her words were like broken glass, sharp, reflective, full of pain. Jed didn't ask much. He'd seen enough suffering to recognize it without words. At night, he'd sit by the fire and stare at her shadow against the canyon wall. There was something about her, fragile, yes, but not weak. She'd survived things that would have destroyed most. And maybe that's what scared him the most. Because in her silence, he saw himself. One evening, as the sky burned orange, she asked, "Why did you save me?" He poked at the fire. "Didn't think about it much, but you jumped." He looked up. Guess I was tired of watching people drown." Her lips trembled and she turned away. But something softened in her that night. She slept closer to the fire, and when she dreamed, she didn't wake screaming.
Meanwhile, Tucker Shaw's men were closing in. The boy Jed had punched by the river rode back to camp with a broken jaw and a bloodied ego. Tucker listened in silence, his face unreadable under the brim of his black hat. Then he stood, loaded his rifle, and said, "Bring her back, and bring me the man who touched her." By the third day, they found the trail: boot prints, ashes, and a piece of torn cloth. At the ranch, Clara began to heal. Her laughter, small and fragile, returned. Jed fixed the fence, she mended the windows. Slowly, the empty house began to breathe again. But under every laugh, there was tension, the kind that hangs before a storm. One night, Clara found Jed staring at an old photograph, a woman and a child, both gone long ago. "She looks like you," Clara said softly. Jed didn't answer. He just whispered, "They died because I was too slow." Clara touched his hand. "You saved me. Maybe that means something." He looked at her then, really looked, and saw something he hadn't in years: hope. He kissed her forehead gently, almost afraid of breaking the moment. "You need sleep." She smiled faintly. "You too, Cowboy." The peace didn't last. At sunrise, gunfire shattered the silence. Jed was out front fixing the gate when a bullet tore through the post beside him. He dove for cover, shouting, "Clara, down!" 3 riders stormed through the brush, Tucker's men. One fell to Jed's first shot. The second caught a bullet in his shoulder. But the third, a younger man, furious, reckless, charged straight for the house. Jed fired again. The horse bucked, the man fell, and when the dust settled, Tucker Shaw himself rode in slow. "Mornin', Cole," he said. "You've got something of mine." Jed stood, revolver steady. "She ain't yours." Tucker smirked. "Everything on my land is mine." "This ain't your land." Tucker dismounted, pacing like a wolf. "You think you can hide her? You don't know what she's done." Jed's jaw tightened. "Don't care." Tucker raised his gun. "Then you'll die for her." The 2 men stood in silence. The wind died. Even the birds seemed to hold their breath. Then, thunder. The guns roared almost together. Jed stumbled back, hit in the shoulder, but his bullet hit true. Tucker Shaw fell, face first, into the dust. For a long moment, all was still. Then Clara ran to Jed, catching him before he fell. Blood soaked through his shirt, but he smiled weakly. "Told ya, you were safe now." She cried, holding him close. "You can't die, not like this." He brushed her cheek with his trembling hand. "Then make it mean something." His eyes closed. The wind picked up, carrying the sound of the river through the valley, the same river where they'd met. Weeks later, the ranch was quiet again. The grave under the willow tree bore no name, just a hat resting on the wooden cross. Clara sat beside it, whispering words the wind carried away. She had rebuilt the ranch, brick by brick, just as Jed would have wanted. Every dawn, she watered his horse. Every night, she lit a candle in the window. They said the woman who lived by Ash Hollow never left her land again. But travelers passing by sometimes saw her by the river at dusk, her hand skimming the water, her voice soft against the wind. "Easy, it hurts," she'd whisper. And somewhere, in the rustle of the grass and the hush of the current, It almost sounded like someone whispered back, "You're safe now." If this story touched your heart, give it a like. It helps more souls find their way to the lost Wild West. Subscribe for more tales of love, loss, and redemption beneath the burning skies. Tell me in the comments, where are you listening from tonight?